In this episode,
or just browsing through the the digital covers, it's just there's a whole
Yeah, you're gonna say it, John.
I'm trying
You're
not
gonna
to,
say
dude.
it, dude. You're gonna say it. Yeah.
Welcome. You're listening to Paleo Cheese Podcast, episode 33, Ghosts, Are Aliens Gods, and Technology Advancements.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jeremiah Bannister.
And I am Chad Lutsky.
And you're listening to Paleo Cheese Podcast, part of the Project Entertainment Network. And we've got an awesome show for you today. We've got a topical show, Chad.
How do you know it's awesome?
How do I know? Because I picked the topic, dude.
Okay.
That's how I know, man. I can ensure this, dude. I can
Okay.
ensure it's going to be a lot of fun, man.
Okay. Well, I know I will forget this because we'll get all wrapped up in the conversation. So before we go any further, I did want to announce that my new novella, Slow Burn on Riverside, is up for pre-order for Kindle. And it has a quiet paperback release, which means the paperback is available right now. But I haven't said anything. So
You did just now.
yeah, well,
Yeah. It's not quiet anymore.
and that's okay because the official release is March 19th,
Yeah.
which is 6 days, and by the time this airs, it'll be 5 days away. So if our listeners want to be blessed with getting an finding out about the early paperback, then by all means, please go purchase it. All my books are cheap. My Kindles are usually like $3.99. My paperbacks are usually $8.99. I
Yeah.
think one of them's $9.99.
You've got hardcovers now, though.
I got a couple hardcovers.
And those
I'll
are like
have
what,
more.
$50, $60?
No. Well, the
Yeah.
limited edition, yeah. Now we're
Yeah,
talking 90.
Yeah.
No, and then it is a prequel to The Same Deepwater as You, but it's also 100% a standalone. So if you've never read Deepwater, have no interest in it, this book stands by itself. So yeah, that's just a quick announcement.
It's awesome, man.
Slow Burn on Riverside. It's a thriller. It's a dark drama. If you read my stuff before, you know there's not going to be ghouls and ghosts in it. So
I've noticed that.
Yeah.
I've noticed you're not into the ghouls and ghosts, dude.
it's not my thing. I have a difficult time with suspension of disbelief, and I do write it in short stories sometimes. But yeah, not normally.
Yeah. I don't know if I could do the whole ghost. Well, goblins, no. Ghosts, maybe. I could do a ghost story, man.
Yeah.
You know, they kind of the idea spooks me a little bit. It at least gets my attention, right? Because I've watched a lot of those ghost hunter shows and everything.
Mhm.
And there's always part of me, the larger part of me knows that this is a bunch of ridiculous nonsense. But there's always part of me that really does hope that I'm going to hear something or see something that's really astounding. That's just like, that is absolutely remarkable, you know, and I never do. Never. And so it's kind of and we talked about that actually, I think before on the episode of the local legends and stuff like that.
It's one of those things where how exciting would that be?
Oh,
it's always exciting to know that what, like aliens or whatever, on other planets, just to think that, whether it be, not necessarily close the door on it, but just think, how cool would that be? And you and I, we're big God believers, and we subscribe to the we love science, and we subscribe to the idea that God is the author of science. And as far as I'm concerned, the more we find out about science, the more we find out that things align with a lot of the stuff that goes on in the Bible. And the reason why I bring that up is because I totally forgot.
You're getting all theological, man.
I know,
theological up in the house, dude.
Yeah, I totally forgot. But this is why I brought this up, is because one thing that gives me great hope about ghosts, and I say hope because I like the excitement of that. It's like feels like a safe fear. Like, people don't die from ghosts. Ghosts aren't murdering people. They're just scaring the crap out of them, So the idea of a ghost or something like that is exciting. I don't really believe it. Never had an experience like that. However, there is something in the Bible that makes me wonder.
King Saul, bro.
No, it's when I think it's Peter's out on the boat. Jesus is cruising out to him.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, it's a freaking ghost.
Yeah.
And they get freaked out.
Yeah, straight
and
up.
It's like, where did that? It's a ghost. Where did that even come from? You guys believed in ghosts?
Yeah.
So
King Saul's in there, man. You have the essentially like a seance, right? He goes and Saul ends up going to this person who conjures up the spirit of Samuel, and Samuel's mad about it, right? And like, so yeah, there has to be some kind of a place for the idea within like a biblical worldview. Yeah.
Anyway, I always thought that was interesting that a ghost is mentioned in the Bible, and Jesus is like, no, man, it's not a ghost. Just it's chill. It's me.
It's me. Like,
yeah. Does that mean that the ghosts are real? Was that a threat? What?
Yeah, just a fear that they had. I mean, were they that different from a lot of people nowadays? People would wonder that. I mean, dude, look, as scientifically minded as I am, if I was out on a boat and I see somebody just cruising along on the water or whatever, man, I'd be like, homie, there's a ghost out here. Like, yeah. There's a siren, right? Like, oh no, we're in trouble.
But it makes me like, it's part of their vocabulary. It's part of their urban legend. And it makes me wonder, what were their ghost stories? Like, obviously ghosts floated because they thought, Jesus was floating and he was a ghost. So yeah, it's I would like to know more about that.
Yeah.
Like, why did you say that? What'd you hear? What did you hear about? What legends did you guys have about ghosts and stuff? What kind of crap did they do? And what were they exactly? Were they dead
back
people?
then, like that far back? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It'd be fascinating, dude. And I hold out hope for different things, not aliens, right? I've never been that enthralled by the idea of aliens because I've always been.
It's because you're scared of them.
Well, I would be rightfully scared. If there are aliens, they essentially within the framework of like what's in this world and of this world kind of thing, of this universe, they would be gods. I mean, if they can travel that span of space and time and survive and keep cloaked the way they have and everything else, probing everybody in the butt all the time and never getting busted, they're obviously not just gods, but they're malicious. And so,
what's your definition of? I guess what's your definition of a god?
Well, what I'm saying is within like, it wouldn't be God in the sense of a being that is uncreated, right? Yeah. So it would be like a demigod. It'd be some kind of a creature. So it's obviously not creator. It's a creature that's powers and abilities would be, relatively speaking to us, so astounding that it borders on omnipotence. We would struggle, getting through a radiation belt, right? They would be not only going through it, but all the time and traveling light years in order to get here. If that was even the way that aliens are,
but
kind of
I
the
don't
lore
really
of
see it like
that.
that. I just see it as a superior technological advance. If children could talk and we see us for the first time and see what we've done, they'd be like, wow, you guys are total gods. And we'd be like, no, dude, we're smarter and we've advanced, we can do this and that. Or if
we
you
could
go
not
back in
hurt
time,
them. There's nothing we could do if we can't make it through a radiation belt. And there's a big reason why I'm saying God's like in a technological difference, because take for example, there's a video on YouTube that this guy, I don't know who he is. In fact, what he did was reckless. He goes to this place that had never before seen a white man. He goes in there and tribes people see him, right? And they're totally spooked. You have all these people, man, they've got their spears and stuff, and they come up and they're super scared. They don't know what to do about him. And they're touching his skin, trying to rub his skin to see like what's going on with this kind of thing. He shows them a mirror. They they are terrified.
Yeah.
They look and they're, whoa, and they turn around and they turn their face. They're so scared. They don't know what to do with it. They, and, you know, sitting there and throwing spears at people and stuff. And it's like, dude, we could sit there in the United States and push a button and nuke them. And they would think it's, you know, a Firebird or something in the sky. Like, no offense to them, but they are so primitive that it's actually reasonable to say that it's a dangerous thing for us to actually integrate it all, for us to even confront them and deal with them, because in the instances where we have, it's wiped out entire tribes in a short period of time. And not just from like disease or anything like that, just the overwhelming realization that their entire idea of the world is fake. It's not real. And that it's so mind expanding this idea that there are cars and internet and planes in the sky and everything else, you know, that to them it's so overwhelming of an eye-opening, like it's revelatory, that it's overwhelming to the point that it can wipe out entire people. And so that we fantasy people like, oh man, aliens, they'd be like kind of legit and cool and stuff, and you're like, we would be the people with the spears on the shore, you know, shooting at them, and it'd be like, bro, like it would ravage us. It would completely.
I just don't see it. I just don't see it as. I don't liken it to being as like godlike. Just like that white guy was not a god, but maybe in their sense, if you know, with the mirror and stuff and all, because their minds can't comprehend that, they have a completely different perspective.
Yeah.
And so just
I'm
like
using it with small G, man. Small G God, dude. Small G Greco-Roman, right? I'm using this idea that you know, not Jehovah, right? I'm not saying Jehovah, you know, like Yahweh, this is what this is. I'm using that term relative to scale, saying that it would be so overwhelming and so mind-boggling that they actually wouldn't, it would be, I'd be fascinated to know more on whether they can even ever comprehend that. Like, how far of a difference is that once you get to that place, the idea of picking somebody up and plopping them in, it's not like Encino Man, you know. So I don't know, but godlike, demigod, demiurge, whatever, you know. But so vastly, so much bigger, so much larger, so much power, right? The power to literally annihilate.
Yeah.
That's something that's unfathomable in their world. They don't have any reference in the created order in their mind, in their social framework, to make sense of anything like that.
I think that white guy showing up is very similar to something that if, you know, an alien visited, like, let's say some of these people who claim to have been abducted, let's say, for argument's sake, that really happened to at least one person. Okay. That guy would be kind of like the one tribe that saw the white dude that one time, and then they started drawing pictures of it and telling stories about it. But they're the only like tribe to have seen that, and their minds are blown. They have to try to convince others. There's no proof of any of this happening. And so that would be kind of like the same thing. It's just like the white man observed this tribe, in and said, hey, hello, this is the first time, you know, this happened, and every other observation was from a distance, just kind of like aliens, you know. Maybe they're observing us from a distance, taking notes, knowing that we'll get spooked, knowing that things will get haywire if they don't come like a thief in the night and just go to a select few and try to be stealthy about it, and and then realize, well, even if they see us, some of them, you know, I mean, you could film, I could go outside right now and let's say there's a ship hovering over my house, a legit UFO. I could film it. It doesn't really matter. You know, it doesn't matter how real it is, because if I post it online, I mean, there will be some who will believe it because they want to so bad. But the majority of the world's going to be, yeah, that's a great video editing thing that you did there. That looks really cool. I mean, I've seen
like
some really
Phoenix
cool
Lights,
stuff,
dude. Yeah,
I've seen some cool stuff where like the pyramid shaped things are hovering over like what was it, Egypt or something, and just really cool stuff like in the sky, and it's like that legit looks scary and real.
Yeah.
But you never know. I mean, there's no like end to how good you can make something look realistic. So,
I look at it and say, that's the last thing I'll say about the alien thing is that, for one, I mean, like theoretically, we can say, well, we know that there are Goldilocks zones. So like potentially there's a Earth-like planet there. And that if we came about through a process of lightning and water, right, which is
if we came through a what?
What's that?
If we came through a what?
Oh, a very dude, and it would be in evolutionary terms, it would be
a very elongated one.
Elongated process, right? Very elongated.
Yeah.
And but if that's the way it works, right? If that's how that happens, then it would seem possible, if not even probable, that there would be forms of life. So whatever that means, right? But the idea that there would be creatures, or in this case, the best example, the best frame we have would be persons. So the idea of persons or beings, sentient beings that have the ability to do that, it would be like there's a book, man. Is it called Lord of the Earth or anyway? It's an apocalyptic. It's an apocalyptic book, and it's written, I think, in the 1800s. And it even talks about these crazy flying ships in the sky and stuff. And it talks about that with the Antichrist and stuff. It's kind of a crazy end timesy book.
Yeah.
And it's remarkable, actually. It's a classic in a way. And so, but the thing is that it would be on that magnitude of a global religion. So it wouldn't just be like, I knew it all along. Like, you would have people, it would be a full-blown religion. Like there would be, people would worship it. People would talk about it. It would change the entire framework of what we think is not only possible, but where we're going as a species. And I think that a lot of times because we're closer to Monkey Town than that, we get it caught up in the idea that it would just be like, well, that's cool, man. There's aliens here. It's like it would be. That isn't how that would play itself out in society or globally. And so I'm not excited about the prospect, and I'm also not that impressed by things because I think it's easier to assume with justification that a lot of these even the videos that are remarkable videos, dude, where you've got these crazy flying machines, dude, that the government has even released in the last 4 years or so, where it's more and more and more. And there are other countries like Mexico, I believe, and Russia and others that have, their government has actually said that there are aliens and UFOs and stuff. Like they don't even, that's like an official position or an official admission or whatever.
Yeah.
And so, but that it's easier to chalk that up to the power that man and mankind is able to harness. And the things that are done under the shroud, right, of secrecy of governments, and the way that they have even weapons regarding the uses of energy, computers using energy with dimensions and concepts of dimensions. So, like, I mean, there's things that are way beyond most people in the way that they think. And if they heard it, in fact, the best example, there's a computer. I don't know if it's called D-Link or what. It's not D-Link. I forget what it's called, but it's basically this idea that you're kind of like feeding off of energy from other dimensions. But the way that the guy is talking about it, and he's been criticized for this, but the way that he talks about it, he admits in his presentations that this sounds like religion, almost like we're stealing energy from other dimensions, that we've figured out this thing and that we're able to deplete energy from another dimension. So we're essentially doing with that what we're already doing right now with energy and minerals and other resources, even water, right? We're hoarding, and we're like, we need that energy for what we want. We figured out how to tap in, and that's the language he uses. So but that's so bizarre that most people hearing that would just think, well, this guy's a weirdo kook, you know. And so I kind of feel like that's the way it might be with aliens.
That's funny that we all just got that from my book Slow Burn on Riverside, and how I don't normally do ghost.
Yeah, dude,
stories.
it's true. It's true, man.
So you've got a topic.
I do have a topic, man. And I thought it'd be fun because, you know, we're old men, you know, and so we've lived long enough where this list makes a lot of sense. I actually got it over at listverse.com, and it's in their technology segment by David Long, and it's top 10 primitive technologies that are better than their advanced counterparts. And I want your opinion on this because I know you'll be aware of, if not all of them, then basically all of them, right?
Okay.
And so, and we both are, right? We both have lived through these times to say, you know, because we live in the day and age where tech is constantly changing all the time, and you're always updating and updating and updating all the time. And it's, for a lot of people, like my kids and stuff, even, they're weirded out sometimes when they see old tech or they hear about what it was. They say, well, what's the point of that? And they don't see the way it connects, and that sometimes there may have been benefits to some of these things, and in some ways it may actually have been better. And so I'd like to hear your opinion on that.
Okay, disclaimer,
Yeah.
I am very old school, and I tend to hate change. And so I can see, you know, like I think the internet is one of the greatest things, but also one of the worst things that's ever happened to mankind.
Yeah.
And so yeah, I'm old school, man. So I can see being opinionated about, I don't know any of them are, but just knowing me, I can. Yeah.
And I'm kind of with you, man. I'm a little bit of a Luddite. You know, I am very skeptical. You know this because it's one of the struggles we have with the show on promoting it, because I loathe social media. I absolutely hate it. I don't. We've had long conversation where I've talked about it, you know, till I'm blue in the face, being like, dude, I really actually hate it. I think it's bad. I know the benefits of it and the arguments people use, but screw it, dude. It is evil. I don't want to do it, except in Telegram. I'll do that. Well, Telegram is challenging me though, Chad, because it's basically like a megazord of bots. And so you got bots for everything, bots for comments, bots for music, bots for rich text format, bots for whatever, comments, anything you want. It's just bot. And I've been really critical of bots. I even joke around if I go to a house where they have Alexa, I'm like, oh, but you know, like this is a bad thing. And here I am learning bots now. So
right.
I know, dude, I know cognitive dissonance is a song playing in my brain all the time. I know it. So, okay. Number 10.
Yes.
The wired telephone.
Okay.
Now, it says right here, after over a century of use, modern phones, which we effortlessly carry around today, replace the pioneer telephone. Although we can easily buy and replace these modern phones, the wired telephone stood out as the best way people could communicate, and you definitely didn't have to worry about cracked screens or people bothering you all the time. I wish that the writer would have said, you don't have to worry about the power going out.
Yeah. Well, there were some people who, I can't remember why it was, but if your phone was hooked up a certain way, kind of like the people who, if you lose power and then you can't have water either, versus somebody who loses power and they have water because of the well water versus, you know, that kind of thing. But I do remember being in a house that lost power and the phone was fine, and being in another house that lost power and can't use phone now. I can't remember why that was.
Wow. Yeah. See, I never had that. Yeah.
But okay. Well, are we talking text? Because if we're talking
pros and cons, man. Pros and cons, like, you know, your experience with these things. What do you lament them being gone? Do you still have one?
No, we finally, but I felt like we were one of the last to get rid of our landline, because we got rid of our landline. Gosh, I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, which was I didn't know many people.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And I know you agree with me on this, but as far as communication goes, texting has ruined communication.
Yeah.
And it's allowed people to say whatever they want, even though they know they shouldn't. keyboard warriors and whatnot. And I'm not talking about
The click
social,
clacktivist dude. Yeah.
I'm not talking about social media posts, but I'm talking about like, reaching out to someone. Like my son has been talking for 2 or 3 weeks now to this real nice girl that he met through one of the apps that we talked about on a earlier episode, like a dating app. And but they have yet to even hear each other's voices. And so which is kind of prolonging this final inevitable meet and greet and making it that much harder to actually, because it goes from, and I even remember my buddy John Bowden, we got really close, but had never heard each other's voices before other than hearing each other on a podcast or something. And then the first time we spoke on the phone, I was actually kind of nervous. I don't know why. I was like meeting him in real life or something. And it takes when you're being catered to, it takes away something about the communication, and it makes kids unable to communicate. And if you're going out and looking for a job or doing something like that, or you need to make an appointment or do a phone call and the kid has to do it, I feel like they're kind of unprepared. Yeah. And even if they have friends, like I remember years ago, my son Elijah had a friend, and he tried to call him, and he would the guy would not answer, and then he'd just text back. He would not talk on the phone. And I just thought, wow, what is and this was kind of like the beginning of, it's like, what's going on here? Is this what people are doing? It's like they can't answer the phone. They can't be bothered to, which doesn't make sense to me, because I would rather talk and get this short thing out than sit here and type all this crap out for 20 minutes when I could just finish it right now and have a couple minute conversation. I don't know. I mean that those are the cons, I guess.
Yeah. I obviously a con is getting wrapped up in the cord all the time. Right. That did suck. Right. And they'd get all wrapped up and tangled and stuff and kind of gnarly and everything, and looking stupid.
You just made me feel like I went way too deep with this.
No, dude. No,
now you're talking about
I was going to say, no, in fact, I'll go a little bit deeper even in that. Part of it's like there's pros and cons to the idea that kids are a little bit uncomfortable talking on the phone. Mm-hmm. Because traditionally, if you wanted to talk to somebody, you either went to go see them, or you wrote a letter, or did the telegram thing, do kind of stuff. And so, or smoke signals, like, a lot of people would do that. Carrier pigeon. So
soup cans.
Yeah,
soup cans
exactly. Soup can. I've done it, right? And so, to another room in the house, but still. And so, trying those different things, and that telephones were a very curious change in history, because it was the first time where you had a disembodied voice. Mm-hmm. And that was bizarre, because and I've heard people talk about like how back in the day when people were, constantly on the phone all the time, and a lot of people would have little doodle pads by their phones. And the question is, why are people doodling, and why so many circles? And psychologically, and if people say that's incorrect, or you're missing the point, let me know. But the idea is searching for a face. Right, they're trying to put a face with that, because it's such an unnatural thing for them to be hearing a voice that doesn't have anything. That's godlike, right? That's hearing the voice in the cloud and being like, whoa, super scared kind of thing. And so it's like almost angelic, like borderline angelic. And so it's an awkward experience. It bothers me though, because we've gotten to this point where a lot of kids now who are using cell phones for texting and stuff, if you go and you want to do a telegram, number one, it's a little labor intensive, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, for every single letter, like you gotta master that kind of thing. It's like the old phones where you had to push the button like 4 times, or to get to the number and stuff.
Yeah.
So it slows it down, right? It slows down that Well, I was going to say that word again. It slows down the whole procedure.
Yeah.
It does. And so you people generally not do it as frequently. Whereas now something comes up in your head and, you think, well, who's that one, character? He was like in a movie for like 3 seconds and it was kind of funny. Did he do something? I'm going to go IMDb. And so you're just whatever's in the brain. You didn't do that with a telegram.
Mhm.
You didn't do that with any of that stuff. And so, and not only that, but it's gotten to the point now. And maybe back in the day with letters and telegrams, stuff like that, maybe it's something similar. But a lot of people, younger people now, they actually get anxiety from hard stops, from like periods.
Mhm.
And so like they won't use periods. And in fact, if you use them, they've done studies that say that their anxiety goes up, like you're some kind of an authority or something. Like, wow, an authority on basic English, like you put a period at the end of that sentence, bro. Like, what are you doing? Who cares? You put a period there, man. But that sense of finality, and that sense almost like of certainty almost, and it causes anxiety, and that's bizarre to me. So
it's hard to pit that one thing against the other because the phone just does the old phone just does the one little thing. And there's something to be said too about being able to get away and not have people contact you. Like if you wanted to go shopping and you're just out or you're going out to dinner or something like that, you can turn on your answer machine and you'll get the message and you'll return the call. You're being left alone to do whatever you want to do, and you are present in whatever it is you're doing. You are completely present.
yeah.
So it's hard to pit the cell phone against that because the cell phone is this whole other thing. It's an arcade,
the smartphone,
it's a movie theater. So
okay. Number 9, the swamp cooler. Do you know what that is?
The what?
Swamp cooler. It's known as the evaporative cooler. Cools the air by evaporating water.
No.
It's different from an air conditioning system that uses cycles of absorption, refrigeration, or vapor compression. I have one of these, right? And to be honest, if it was bigger, it would be dope, but it's really small. And what it is, you put water in it, and it uses the water to create a mist, and the mist, there's a fan inside, and the mist comes out. And so it ends up
vaporizer or a humidifier?
No, they called it a swamp cooler. It says swamp coolers minimize dry air temperature by the phase transition of water to water vapor. This means the swamp cooler can cool air with less energy than refrigeration, especially in arid climates. In non-arid climates, the swamp cooler can condition the air without adding to the humidity, and this favors the occupants. So there seems to be benefits from that, but it's not going to be as cold. Like it's going to cool it down because there's mist essentially, right? And so it's going to, and it's weird. I went to a store. I forget where we were. It was a Bed Bath and Beyond or something, I think. We went in there and they had this little cooler thing, this little swamp cooler, and stuff was coming out as a fan. You have a little tray, you got to pour water in it, man, and it basically it's water to water, and so you get this water kind of floating around and stuff like a humidifier. But it cools everything, and it's kind of an interesting thing. But I don't know, man. Like air conditioning is a big deal. Like I'm really grateful for it, man. I'm really grateful for.
I don't know.
You know, okay. So you might have an opinion on this one then.
No.
Beepers and pagers.
I mean, that's the beginning of I need to know what's going on at all times, and I need to know where you're at all times.
Yeah.
It's just it's a distraction, and I mean, let's face it, we know who had the beepers and the pagers back in the day. Those are people you shouldn't be hanging out
You're
with.
a dealer, dude. Yeah. What was it? Pound 911. Like, I need it now, dude.
Yeah.
I need that weed. Yeah,
Right.
but it's not as intrusive, right? I mean, you could put it on vibrate, and you wouldn't. I guess it would take out of the social imaginary. And I've never had a pager, so I can't really say how it affected me. But I can imagine that it's a little bit better in that, just in the idea that you have as you're walking about in your day and everything, that people can reach you and contact you, but that you're still going to have to go and get a phone,
Yeah.
and you don't have to answer. You're not even going to have, and you're not going to feel like you need to call anybody or check your voicemail. And because it's the all-in-one, mega shop now with the smartphones, it's basically disconnecting all of that and saying, yeah, this is like a wigwam of intrusions, dude. Like, get that thing out. And now we've just got this pager, which is
Yeah.
intrusive, but
I think it was. I mean, I'm sure when it was invented and it was starting to be used, it really had its good purpose. Like people on the job, in the workforce that needed it for their job or whatever, or maybe even children, parents, communication or something like that. But let's face it, a lot of people wore it like a big schlong hanging out to show off the goods.
Yeah.
like a sports car on their hip, it's
Yeah,
like, check
yeah.
me out, man. I got a
beeper, man.
and nobody would page them ever.
Yeah, you're like, dude, I mean, who's paging you? And you're like, my mom.
Yeah,
Mom. My mom asking if I'm done at the mall yet. I have my pager and a couple quarters in my pocket. I gotta go to the payphone and pump those buggers in so I can call. All right, Telegram. Right, transmitting with Morse code. But I liked what it said. It said Telegram had a mysterious beauty. The Telegram certainly had a sense of elegance and drama to it. It involved, for example, a messenger approaching your door, knocking. You open it, and they go, Telegram. And they said, talk about nostalgia. What's more, modern email in comparison excludes all the anticipation that the Telegram brought to senders and receivers. It also takes less skill to send an email than a Telegram. And
scale like it is an art or something.
Like it's an art form. I mean, look, it is a little bit. I mean, you got that guy sitting there, do. He's going nuts with the Morse. I don't know, man. It's this guy. I don't know this guy. I don't know who's writing it, but I like that he talked about the idea that there's a little bit more of an elegance
email
to it.
Or snail mail. That's ridiculous.
What's that?
It's definitely not better than snail mail or email. It's just archaic and ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, to even the art form or whatever you said.
Yeah.
And they're talking about having that middleman. Like, you got a Telegram. I don't care. I mean,
really? You don't care about that?
No, I mean, we have that in the AOL. You've got mail. That was you've got a Telegram.
Yeah, but that sucks, dude. That's it's the same voice all the time, man. Okay, you grew up in Battle Creek. Do you remember the old commercials on TV for singing telegrams?
You brought this up before, and I don't think I do.
Oh, man, really? So, okay, the idea of a singing telegram, somebody showing up to your house, dude, right?
But that's like a gift. That's
swooning you.
Weren't telegrams mostly like, I have to let this person know? Not like I have to let this person know how much I love them. But I have to let this person know that we just ran out of railroad ties and the railroad needs to get done.
Yeah. Okay. Number 6, dumb phones.
What's a dumb phone?
A dumb phone is right here. It says dumb phones are basic cell phones. You can make phone calls, send texts, and if you were lucky enough, you could find one with a cheeky game of Snake to play when you're bored at home. So in other words, it's not a smartphone.
Those are really, really good for kids, I think, because I see a lot of parents who allow their kids to have cell phones at a really early age. And then you start this crazy addiction, and then you start the whole, I can't communicate with anybody. And they're not living in the moment. Everything is, and then of course, Instagram and all kinds of social media stuff where the poor girls are comparing their bodies to other girls, and it just starts this whole thing. And then you depression, and then You're comparing your life to other people's heavily edited lives where you're just seeing the highlight reels. But the dumb phones or whatever you call them, they're for communication.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to get addicted to that stupid game of Snake or whatever that's on there.
I don't know, man. I was
And-
pretty addicted to that, dude.
and-
I stayed up
and-
like 5 in the morning trying to beat that.
It
song.
might, it might
Yeah.
make the kid feel that's like
Yeah.
being addicted to Atari. You know, it's like I had an Atari, I had a bunch of games, but
Never
man,
addicted
you
to
can only
Atari, dude?
play. You can only play for like an hour, and then you go.
You're done with it, dude.
Yeah, for you know,
basketball, where it's like,
yeah, and then maybe 6 hours later, you're like, I want to play again. And then you play, and you're like, oh yeah, this is why I stopped playing earlier. And
Yeah.
it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
So no,
Yeah.
those are good, and those I wish that we would see more of those for kids, for parents who want their kids to be able to communicate with their friends and to be able to communicate with their children at any moment, you know, at any given time.
I'm with you on that. All right, dude. Number 5, we're halfway through. Typewriters. What do you feel about typewriters, dude?
Yeah, no. When I very first started writing, it was before the internet. And I wrote on a typewriter. I used a lot of what do you call it?
Whiteout.
No, the little sheets.
Oh yeah, dude. I know what you're talking about.
I can't remember what they're called, but it's like whiteout. But they were like
yeah.
little plastic sheets, and you just stick it in there, and
Yeah.
lots of that. And it was just it was. I can understand people like, you know, old school writers and people, Stephen King, like, you know, kind of do it like this, and we liked it, and we had to snail mail our 300, 400 page manuscript and send a self-addressed stamped envelope and not hear anything for 6 months. I'm sure that there's certain nostalgia attached to that. But, you know, once word processors came along and we were able to print stuff like that, no.
And dude, there's Alpha Smarts too. Like, yeah, you don't even need a typewriter anymore. You can still have the backspace.
People dictate on their phones, write books while they're going for walks.
You know, he's talking about it doesn't come with the distractions. Like, that is the one benefit, right? And I think maybe there's even an argument to be made. I wrote a blog about it a long time ago about that there's actually a consequence to the existence of a key to delete, right? That it's so we use it so much now. And that it can be debilitating, right? Just the mere existence of it there. Whereas in the previous medium with typewriters, before that, like, it was maybe even that you should be a little bit more careful about what you're writing as you're doing it, more methodical, because you didn't want to have to break out that stupid little sheet, you know? You didn't want to have to do that and have to stamp it on there and do that, because it sucked, dude. It was the worst. And so, yeah, man, it'd be an interesting thing. So, okay. Yeah, I'm with you on that too. So, all right. This is, I think, I'll be interested to hear what you got to say. Digital audio tape.
Digital audio tape.
Yes. Similar to cassettes, but smaller format. So, like the smaller, they were like VHS almost, like cassette tapes, but they were smaller, and they were called DATs. And it said the great thing about the DAT was that it could record better than a CD. It could also assign a number to the tracks and easily skip whatever you wanted it to, just like a CD. The only disadvantage with it was its cost, making it most helpful exclusively to professional markets. And in 2005, Sony announced plans to stop producing these machines. And the writer says the announcement was earth-shaking. I did not hear of this. So I think that's a little bit over exaggeration on the behalf of this writer. But at the same time, you know, a digital audio tape, and it doesn't even look like it's got the reel. It has what looks like the reel, but I think it's just the metal, I think, isn't it?
I'm trying to figure out why they call it digital if it's
a DAT.
Essentially analog anyway. I mean, they're even saying tape. I've heard of DAT before.
Yeah.
But I don't really have an opinion on that, I guess, because I've never used it, and I don't, to my knowledge, I've never owned anything where I was cranking out music using a digital audio tape.
What do you think then? Then scrap that one, right?
Mhm.
And think like what traditional technology, right? Like you like records, for example, right?
Mhm.
Why do you like records? What is it about records? Because I like them too.
Yeah, a couple of reasons.
Yeah.
Nostalgia
Okay.
would be one. That's what I started with 8 tracks and vinyl, way before CDs. And then later cassettes I would start getting, but a lot of nostalgia, and the artwork, the size of the artwork. That stuff is cumbersome, and you need a lot of room to put your vinyl versus CD and obviously digital.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. There's something about it, and quite honestly, I've got a stereo with a stereo system with the that I play my vinyl on, and then I've got a stereo that I play my CDs on. The CDs sound better, but it's because of my stereo. I don't have a jank stereo. It's not bad, but I know if I had one, like a nicer one, I would prefer some of that. And I don't buy all of my stuff on vinyl. I normally just buy either stuff that I'm super into, or like if it's new music, then it's got to be something I'm super into. Like I have all Brant Bjork stuff on vinyl. But other than that, I usually don't get modern music on vinyl. That's not true. I got the new Accused AD, and but a lot of the vinyl that I tend to get also fits that nostalgia, like Kiss and Black Sabbath and Led Zeppelin and Jethro Tull and in the old punk rock stuff that I like from the 80s and stuff. But I think that there's a certain type of music too that I don't want to hear on vinyl, because I think it sounds better on CD just because of the genre of music it is. And
Like when you listen to like Happy House.
Never even heard of that.
Oh, dude. House music, dude. Come on, man. You drum and bass, right?
Oh,
bass music, dude. Are you listening to bass music?
Actually, that type of music, or like Billie Eilish, I wouldn't want to listen to that on vinyl. Anything that's like leans toward electronica or electronic music, like Daft Punk, the band or whatever, Daft Punk.
Yeah.
Madonna. This is tough. Actually, one of the best sounding records in my whole collection is a Madonna record. It's got super high production, but yeah, just more electronic pop stuff. I don't think I'd rather have that on CD, and then I collect the older school stuff, or somebody who is their music was made for vinyl. Like Brant Bjork is a perfect example because he writes that kind of throwback, funky rock, stoner rock stuff, and the whole aesthetic is made for vinyl. He aesthetically, his appearance is made for that era, and so to own his records on vinyl just makes sense.
Dude, I'm with you, man. I feel the same way, although I do like some modern records, like Ben Howard, for example. I really like him. Ben Howard, his album, I absolutely love it on vinyl, but most of it is older. Although I like, even you mentioned Madonna. For me, one of my favorite is Michael Jackson. I think Michael Jackson, some of his stuff from the 80s, I think it's great, and it's still in that world. And even though it was very digital for the time, they were still in the realm of records, and that would be Pink Floyd, for example. Like Pink Floyd got, a lot of people were like, look, your music is just a lot of electronic sounds now. It's a lot of noise and synth and everything else in the background. And yet it was still in that time frame where records were it, vinyl was it. And so it was still made for that. Whereas now it's not. And so makes sense to me, dude. Makes sense to me. Number 3, VHS.
Okay.
For not just watching, But now it says right here, of course, you got to rewind. That is obviously a problem, right?
Yeah.
But it said by 2008, DVDs had almost wholly replaced VHSs. The massive shift eventually led to the demise of VHS. However, many still respect it as one of the best ways to watch and record films. What film is better to watch on VHS? It's been so long.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, you got to have anything that was meant to be like grindhouse, like grainy stuff. Yeah, that you would never want to watch that film like remastered high def whatever version. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
But
See,
yeah. So are they saying that this is a list saying that these archaic things are better than the more modern?
I think that well, the writer, if I can guess, right, from my experience with journalism like this, is that he didn't come up with that title, right? That's an editorial decision made that is in the world of clickbait. So like the idea of these are better, he doesn't necessarily say that. He's saying he's more nuanced. Like, so the guy writing it will say stuff like, here's some cons, like the idea that you got to rewind. Okay. But he's also nuanced enough to say, however, many still respect it as one of the best ways to watch and record film. So there are people out there. What is it? Is it Tarantino? He doesn't like digital, dude. He's like a celluloid guy. Like he's like, what's the phrase? I didn't sign up for this. He said the idea of like, well, what about digital stuff? He said, I didn't sign up for that. Like that's not, he has kind of a conviction.
Well, and he is like a cinephile or whatever, and he's seen every movie out there, and he tends to like that old. I think for him it's probably nostalgic too, and he likes the old grainy film, and he pays homage to all of that stuff in all of his films, whether not from being grainy, but just whether he's stealing a song from a movie, he's stealing a scene or a line of dialogue. And not to mention, he worked in a video store, and there's something to be said about video stores for movie fans, especially like a lot of my friends, closer to my age, who used to go there and go down the horror aisle and just see all these gorgeous covers of movies that they would wanted to eventually get, or you would pick something out by the cover, and there was just something really, really cool about it. Same with going to the record store versus having any song that you want at any moment, the second that it comes out, or even before, if you're talking about torrent and stuff, rather than saving $10 and going to the record store and picking something out that you better hope you like it, because you just spent your money on it and you haven't even heard it yet. And so you have a deeper appreciation for that. And same goes with when you're handing over your $2-3 for a movie at the video store, rather than just, paying $15 a month or whatever Netflix is now, and then putting on a movie and then no, I'll go to the next one. No, I'm going to go to the next one, or just browsing through the digital covers. It's just, there's a whole,
yeah, you're gonna say it, John.
You're
gonna say it, dude. You're gonna say it. Yeah.
Yes,
you're gonna do it, dude.
But there is a whole process about getting up off the couch, going to the video store, and picking that movie that you want to spend the evening with.
Yeah, that's the logic my dad had, dude. When he was telling me when I was when I was a kid, drawing a lot, man, I just blow right through pencils. And he's like, look, it's why he taught me how to cut down trees, and like how to like sharpen an axe, and then to graphite and shave it with a machete. He said, look, you'll appreciate it more. You won't blow through these pencils, man. No, but I know what you mean though. And there is something to that, I think.
And there are people who collect VHS. I mean, if you go on to eBay, I mean, some of them are even priced high, especially like people who like old action films or big time horror. They love to collect that stuff.
I have a whole bunch of it, man. I have boxes of them, but I don't have a VHS player.
Yeah,
and when he said recording, If I had the equipment, because I have friends this way, I got a kind of a mystery buddy, and he's really like radical about this. Like he absolutely loves, he's kind of like Tarantino on this, right? But for us, we've done videos before, man, and it was on VHS, and I've had to edit them buggers, dude. If you don't have the equipment for that, like I had that at Axis Vision. You had all these different knobs you're turning and everything, and you had to kind of move it around and get it just right and splice and everything. If you didn't have that, then bro, like,
well, plus Access Vision, they used those giant tapes.
Yeah, well, when I was there, they were using the VHS tape, the regular VHS, and so you just had to own a bunch of VHS tapes, and you put it in, and you had the the different screens that would show things, and you got it, so like
the big knobs and stuff,
the big knobs and all that, and moving it around, and the noise that kind of goes with that, and all that. So like, but it's hard. Like with digital stuff, there is a major benefit. It's true, the efficiency of it, where you're able to very easily edit when you turn it back on. There's no issue. There's no splicing and all that stuff, And so I kind of sat there and was like, well, you really do have to have a commitment, right? Whether just for the love of it or philosophically or whatever. And you have to have the wherewithal, the knowledge and stuff, and access to certain technologies that even allow you to do that. The last two,
one thing about the recording, I took it as recording like TV shows, like recording movies on HBO and recording your shows off from, but maybe that meant recording as in making a film. I don't know.
Yeah, well, yeah, because they were saying viewing and recording.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think what they mean in the picture that they used for that. Now he may not have used, in fact, it's a video using old VHS cameras in 2020. There's a movie that you and I watched together, and I saw it with you for the first time, and we actually saw it in chunks because it came out in chunks, and that is Italian Spider-Man. Now, I went back years later and I watched it at my cousin's house, and he has a massive television, right? So I'm there, and he loves the film, and I hadn't seen it in a long time. So we watch it on his TV. Dude, I was blown away by it. Like the colors and stuff. And I went and I looked it up, and it was because they were using vintage cameras. Yeah. Like there were very specific cameras that they were using. These were not digital cameras. And that gave it that feel. And I'm thinking that's a great example of a movie that's really cool, and it has a certain feel to it, which is intentional because it's meant to be retro looking, know. In a way, the motorcycles are more modern, but but it's meant to have that feel, that vintagey feel to it. But it was awesome. And I said, I like those. I like that look better, but I also know that that's an aesthetic, that's just simply, I like the look and feel of that. I'm not getting to the level of my buddy who will talk about the difference in the way that the brain receives signals from and connects them in the mind from digital compared to the way how many frames your eyes see per second with cellular. I'm not even going there, right? But just to say it's a fascinating thing. So, okay, last two. I never had one of these, so I don't really have an opinion on it. And the closest reference I have is something we've already talked about. Personal digital assistant, a PDA. Did you ever own one?
No, I never had any reason to.
Okay, yeah. And it's like it says here, all I'll say about a small handheld device offers computing, information, data storage. It offered similar access to many things we enjoy today, including the internet, touchscreen functionality, and word processing. That's like the AlphaSmart Dana. The AlphaSmart Dana maybe that would be like a PDA kind of, right? I mean, I don't know, what would you call that? Would it be a word processor? What would the AlphaSmart Dana, would that be? Because it has access to Wi-Fi.
That I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know. I just remember when the PDAs or whatever they're called, it seems like when they first came out, it seems like I remember it being one of those things where it's like, I really wanted to find a reason why I needed one of those, but I just didn't need one.
Yeah.
My job didn't. I didn't need it.
I had a buddy who had one. I say buddy, he was my boss. He's a lobbyist in New Jersey, and I was the chief aide for him. So I traveled with him everywhere he went and everything, and he had one of those. And so it was an interesting thing. And cell phones had already come out. So, you may have a cell phone is back in like, what is it, man, Nokia and stuff like Nextel, all that stuff back in the day. And so it was already cell phones were around, but you didn't have, I don't know how many of those had keypads at the time, and it didn't function the same. So if you wanted to be able to bring around, documents and to write down a bunch of information, it would be much easier to use that than it would have been for a cell phone at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made sense for him. So, okay, the last one, I feel like I'm too young in a way, because I feel like these didn't last super long. I know they did. I know they lasted longer than I'm probably thinking. But I came in around the time where it made a transition to something else. Number one, floppy disks. I don't know how that's any better ever. Like, I'm like, what are you talking about, man?
If you want to put like 10 pictures on a disk and have a stack of like 20,000 of them.
Yeah, stored 80 kilobytes, dude.
Wow.
Come on, man. With time, floppy disks got smaller. Their storage capacity grew larger. By the mid 80s, floppy disk could store 1.44 megabytes.
And if you wanted to play a game,
it
wasn't very graphic intensive. I mean, you'd have to put like 8 discs in that computer.
Yeah. Like Oregon Trail or something like that.
Yeah.
Dude. Yeah. Where in the world's Carmen Sandiego? Like, I'd have lost in one of these 25 discs I've got to put in.
That one loses.
Yeah. That one loses. And he had it at number one, man. It said right here, it said, however, they were vulnerable to heat and magnets. Totally true. But so when I first got into radio, we would make commercials on these I don't know.
Are we talking about the 5.5 or the 5 or the 3.5 or just both of them?
He mentions the 3.5. But because I always thought of what is it, the hard disk. I always thought of those as the harder ones and the soft floppy disk, but they were both technically floppy disks, weren't they? Yeah, they're both floppy disks. Yeah. And so but heat and magnets, I'm assuming, would primarily be the ones, the floppy ones, right? The soft ones. And so I had something similar to that, man, when I worked in radio. When I first got in, anytime we made a commercial, we'd have to get out these. They were like large 8 tracks, right? So they were big, and they had this metallic reel on the inside, and anytime you wanted to change it, you had to put a magnet and swirl the magnet around, and it would pull all the information, erase everything, and then you could reuse this thing, right? Mm-hmm. And so that was annoying. Because if you ever had that thing anywhere near something that was magnetic like that, you could corrupt the file. So you put in your commercial, you put in this stupid looking 8-track thing, you dump that bugger in there, and next thing you know, half your commercials all and it's all goofy because you accidentally had something magnetic near it, So I don't know. And it says currently floppy disks live as save icons for software applications, despite their benefits, which I don't know if he ever even mentions a benefit to that. He doesn't mention any of them. So I don't know what he's talking about. That's one of those that's like, of all of the things on there, even the Telegram, like I can at least appreciate the idea of a guy coming to your door and letting you know you have one. Like, I think there's something special about that, like there is going to get a record in a record store, that there's something special about the experience of that. But dude, floppy disks,
yeah, plus they have multiple parts, so you can get screwed out of, they have like that spring-loaded thing that you slide, that I'm assuming slides open once you put it in there, but that can get and if that gets screwed, then you're
toast. Yeah. Toast, bro.
Yeah.
So that's the list, man. You know, and I wish I would have thought of other ones, you know, other technologies that it's kind of like, man, you know, this is better. Like I know one would be what's happened with digital with cartoons, for example, as compared to older cartoons that you watch. Like for example, like is it the Aristocats or whatever, or 101 Dalmatians, movies like that, where you go and you see the originality of that art. You can tell that this is drawn. Like this is like you can see almost the grain in it. Whereas a lot of the modern stuff, you can just tell. I mean, it's like a very distinct thing. It's not to say you can't draw beautiful things digitally like that. It's just to say it's, you know, a conversation to have. And so
animation is one of those things where I prefer it as it has accelerated. Like if I go back and I see like an old Disney thing, I don't want anything to do with it. I can't stand it.
Really?
That animation, yeah. The only old animation I like is there's a term for it, and I cannot remember what it's called. Listeners, I'm sure will know, but there were a handful of movies using this, like the original Lord of the Rings, the one that came out in like the late 70s.
Dude, is it like the one is it like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe art? Because there was the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe art that's like the Lord of the Ring cartoon or whatever that came out, right?
Don't think I saw that one. There's another movie called Fire and Ice that used that. And I think the movie Wizards maybe did it. But yeah, a lot of stuff from the 70s was doing it. Something more akin kind of to it, but way more modern would be A Scanner Darkly. But that looks much more modern, but it's like basically animation over live action is what it was.
Yeah.
But it looked really cool. And there's a term for that. I like the way that looks, and it's got a certain aesthetic to it, and certain kind of like graininess that I like. But every other animation, I just don't. I like animation to look good. I don't like, you know, 80s.
To look good.
Yeah.
That's terrible. Yeah. I like some of the old stuff. Like I mentioned with a great sense of intention. 101 Dalmatians, Aristocats, stuff like that, because I felt like the art in that, I don't believe that that's bad art. Like you can have older stuff that I think is.
No, it's not. But when you stand it up next to, you know, like just all kinds of stuff. You know,
what about Vampire Hunter D? Have you ever seen that? Bloodlust or the first one, doesn't matter.
No, I don't think, but I know what you're talking about.
The art in that, I don't think Bloodlust was.
I don't like Japanimation.
I don't know if that was actually Japanimation. I think it was an American film.
I mean,
if I remember correctly, maybe I'm wrong, right? But I think that was the thing about it, was that it actually was not Japanimation.
There are a couple of movies, Japanimation, that I like Princess Mononoke or whatever it's called, Spirited Away, and I like those, but I don't like when I try to watch Japanimation stuff like what is the Naruto and stuff like that. I don't even get it. It's just way over my head. It's way too weird for me.
Yeah, my wife really likes that stuff, and I used to. There was a while where I was kind of into it for a little bit. There was actually a really cool one called Lane. There was a number of them that were really cool. In fact, there was one that my wife, she remembers the name. I don't know if it's something about vampires, but it was a lot of fun. I liked the style of the clothing that they wore. I liked the way that certain characters are drawn in Japanimation. But I also, it's almost, it feels to me sometimes almost like some of that religious art, like the Eastern Orthodox, for example, when they do icons, they don't want them to look real. And so there's certain dimensions and proportions. They don't even call it drawing. They call it writing. And so they there's a certain style, like the length of the arms, the length of the fingers. So it follows a certain format, and I feel like Japanimation is that way on a lot of their stuff. Not entirely. I don't want a bunch of people coming down on me because I like it. I'm not criticizing. I'm saying that I'm not the kind of person that could just be like all in all the time for Japanimation. It's something that's just, it's one of the many things that I watch because I like to have that diversified palette of different artistic forms and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
So
cool.
Well, I don't know, man. I thought it was an okay list. We'll see, man. We'll see. We're gonna have a lot of people probably they'll be like, dude, Jeremiah, you suck at picking out topics. I tried, man. I tried.
I think we're gonna have some guests soon. We'll see.
Yeah.
Get a couple guests on here. I got a couple in mind, and yeah. Hopefully we'll be doing that. So
All right, man.
In the meantime, go read Slow Burn on Riverside.
Yeah.
And or something. Read something. Get off your phone.
Yes. Yes. Go read something. Get off the phone. Enjoy. And you know what? It's getting nicer outside, dude.
Yeah.
It's getting nicer. You may as well go outside. You can probably take off your shoes. It's not going to freeze the bottom of your heels or nothing. Just get outside, get in the sun, breathe some fresh air, and buy Chad's freaking book. It's not very expensive. Just do it. Just buy the book. And so, yeah. So, I wish your sales the best. And
thank you.
How can people find us, Chad?
Oh, they can find us all over the place just by probably Googling or entering in Paleo Cheese with a Z, CHEEZE, and paleo is spelled PALEO. I probably just convoluted that way more than, but you can pause it and rewind. At gmail.com. We're on Twitter. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. Yeah.
Are we?
Yeah, we got a Facebook page, man.
It's somewhere. Like people can.
Yeah, we got like 101 followers or 100 followers, something like that. But if you could subscribe to all of our things so that we can feel some sweet validation. And,
yeah, that's how we sleep at night.
Yeah. And you know what? Let us know what you want to hear more of. What episodes you hated. Yeah. And because we want listeners, man. I mean, we have fun, but we want listeners too.
Yeah.
We're
not sitting here being like, we're going to talk about whatever we want. Screw it. If there's like 2 people listening forever, we don't care. We're not ridiculous. We want to have a really good time. We want to have guests on that people want to hear. And granted, we are both genius, right? We're geniuses. We don't have all the answers. And so if you're like, man, why haven't these guys invited this person on? Maybe it's because we just didn't think about it. But we would love it if we did think about it, and we will think about it if you email us. And it's easy to do. Paleo Cheese with a Z at gmail.com. It's that simple. All right, man.
Till next
time.
It's
good talking to you every week, man. Yeah. All right, brother. Have a good night.
All right, you too.
Yeah. What evil lurks in the heart of Don Mondo? Only Chucky the Buddha, the enforcer of the Mondo Mafia, knows. Join them each week on the Mondo Method podcast as Chuck tries to get Don Mondo to reveal what is best in life and where he hid the bodies. Oh, they also talk about writing and being professional authors. The Mondo Method podcast with Armand Rosamilia and Chuck Buddha, weekly, wherever you find your podcasts.